This is Todd, and I'm here with Matthew.
Oh, me.
Yeah.
For convenience sake, today I am Matt.
Matt and Jamie Cramer from Holy Soldier. Say hello.
Hey guys.
This is Rack Talk, and we are here to talk about rack gear. What else? Because rack gear is amazing. Now, our special guest today from Holy Soldier, which was an amazing band and one of my favorite bands of the time, wanted to give you a minute to just introduce the band itself, how you got rolling, how you got going, sort of in a nutshell. Can you give the audience just sort of the compacted timeline?
Sure. Yeah. So back to 1985. A friend of mine, Robbie from high school, we got together, and he introduced me to Andy Robbins, and we put the band together. We started rehearsing in this little warehouse in Long Beach, California. And the first incarnation of the band was Pete Kearney, Larry Farkas, who went on to do Vengeance later, Andy, myself, and Robbie. So we started working up, just writing songs, practicing, and started playing Hollywood. And back in the day, Hollywood was pay to play. So how that worked was a promoter, if you wanted to play at a club, say Gazzari's or the Roxy or the Whiskey, the promoter you would buy the tickets from him. So you'd go in and get 100 tickets, and you had to pay for them. So you purchased the tickets at a certain price, and then you had to go sell them, and hence the pay to play, right? So we did so well, we did go back to the promoters for more tickets. And once you do that a few times, they don't ask you to buy tickets anymore. So they start putting you on the bills, and then you just kind of start working your way up, and your draw starts getting bigger and bigger to where you're starting to headline. And that's kind of what happened with us pretty quickly. We started headlining all the clubs in Hollywood, and got a lot of attention. We were on the cover of LA Now magazine, and record companies started looking at us. And so at that point, we parted ways with our original singer, and we did a national search to find another singer. And we started running auditions. And at that time, we had some other changes. Michael Cutting joined the band. Terry Russell was in a band in LA, and we saw him playing at the Waters Club in San Pedro, and we decided to steal him. So we did. So we stole Terry, and Mike was living in Fresno, and he came to one of our shows, and we got introduced to him. So we invited him over to rehearsal one day. And so that was Holy Soldier minus the singer. So then now we had to go through the very, 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 very painful process of auditioning singers. So we got a demo tape from Steve Patrick, and he had done a few song EP with his brother. And he just had like a unique voice, and we thought this could be interesting. So we flew him down, and we ran through some songs, and we decided that we'll give it a shot. And so he moved down to Los Angeles, and we had a warehouse in Gardena at the time that some of us were living in. And we just started working up songs and went back out and started playing the clubs again, because we had took a break during that time of looking for a singer, and right back in it, started selling out the clubs. And then we worked up a record deal with A&M Records, and we got hooked up with David Safiro to produce that first record. And we went to Fresno, California, to Michael Cutting's mom's ranch, and we took about 6 or 8 weeks of writing and pre-production, which was a lot of fun. It was like a big frat party for 6 weeks. We're just working hard all day, and we'd go inner tube down the river, and just go swimming in the pool, and just, it was a lot of work. And then we got everything dialed in to hit the studio, and then we recorded that first album, and it did pretty good. So that's pretty much, we're all Southern California guys with the exception of Steve. And after that first record, Steve left the band for personal reasons, and Eric Wayne joined the band. He did that first tour with us, actually. And then Steve came back to do Last Train. So instead of Fresno, we went to Seattle to David Safiro's house, and we did the same process, 6-8 weeks or so writing and pre-production. And then we did the record and did that tour. And that was also a good tour.
And then a little later came back together again, one more time, right? And then
yeah, so at that point, after the Last Train tour, we got home and we were going through some issues with the record company, and I had a really, really internal struggle, life choice decision to make, and I had an opportunity for a career, and it was one of the hardest decisions I ever made. So I left, and it was a hard conversation because Andy and I, we're the founding members of the band, and so let me back up. So the Last Train tour, Scott Soderstrom joined the band because Michael left for personal reasons. And so Scott did the Last Train album with me and Andy and Terry and Steve. So after that tour, I left because I just felt like there was something I had to do. And Michael came back. So Michael replaced me, and they went on to do Promise Man. So that was a really, really odd time for us in our type of music because, I know we get labeled as a glam band. I never saw us as a glam band. I think our music wasn't, really, poppy.
Wasn't
like that.
very glam. It was more metal.
No. I mean, maybe they're referring to the image, but I mean, I don't know. But anyway, that's when the grunge thing started happening.
Right.
So we got off tour November 92 with Last Train. And that's kind of when that all was spooling up. And so they decided to go back into pre-production with David Zafiro, and they worked up Promise Man, which I think is a good record. And there's some songs on there I really like. And I think they did a good job at trying to stay relevant, which is, hard to do in music,
Yeah.
If you're a songwriter and you write a certain way, that's the challenge, right?
Yeah,
because
sure.
Now you have to get out of the box. And a lot of good songwriters that I've seen in interviews or had experience to talk to, the secret is they listen to what's relevant in their day, right?
Sure.
So instead of staying in the box from what all your old influences are, they listen to what's current and they develop new influences, and it inspires them to write. And that's the challenge, to stay relevant. And I think the guys did that.
And then they did the big live record with both singers.
Yeah. And I got invited to come out and do that too. And then I think scheduling just didn't work out, so I wasn't able to make it. But it was kind of like everybody that had been in Holy Soldier over the album years came to do that record. So sorry I missed it, though. It would have been fun.
The great way to
really
look at
good
it.
live.
Yeah.
What's that?
That was a really good live. I listened to it quite a lot, and the singing it's all right. I mean, you can hear the what you call it, the strain on his vocal cords that it has put through, but the guitar playing and the drumming and everything, it was spot on.
Yeah, so that was the challenge for Steve. Is when you go into a studio and you are challenged vocally like that, then it's a challenge to sing that every night, and then we did some reunion shows in 2005, and Holy Soldier actually got back together and we did 4 or 5 shows. And when Steve came out, it was a challenge to sing like he used to, because if you're not, he had done country music for a while, and I think he did a country record. So yeah, to come back and sing that stuff, I wouldn't want to try it. As a guitar player, it's easy. You just you practice and you play it. But a singer, that's different.
Voices change over time. It's just natural,
right?
Yeah.
He has a difficult thing to try and recreate as well, because if you listen to the first 2 records, I mean, the amount of the skill he needs to have, I mean, it's amazing. He's a huge, fantastic singer.
Yeah.
The high notes,
he's a really good lyricist too.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, no, I understand. You have to take care of that voice, and if not, see what happens. If you look at Michael Sweet from Stryper, I mean, he's kept his voice, pristine almost. So that's, you win some, you lose some, I guess.
Sure.
Some
Yeah,
have it
and then
something-
you listen to Steven Tyler, he sounds the same, and he's getting up there, and there's certain singers that just never lose it. I have a friend of mine who just messaged me last night. He just went to Iron Maiden, and Bruce Dickinson sounds the same, and they've been doing it for over 40 years. So, and his stuff isn't easy to sing. So he's just one of those really fortunate people that have the genetics, I think, to maintain his voice like that.
Not every singer does. I mean, Jeff Tate, who I adored as a vocalist, his voice just started to change over the years. And so now trying to sing Queen of the Reich or something, you can hear him really struggle to try and do that.
Yeah.
And it just happens, But going back,
one of my favorite.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say going back to yours, but before that, tell me what you were going to say.
So one of my all-time favorite 80s rock singers was Sebastian Bach, because he could get that just down growl, and then he can transition to this really clean, all in one breath. And not a lot of people could do that. And even for him, he's still out doing it. He doesn't quite sound like he used to. It's as you get older, it's just hard to do what you did in your 20s.
Yeah.
And sort of like with Lucky Lawless, actually. He has a very special growly voice, but he did the cleans very well. But you listen to him today, you can tell it's changed, but he still kind of has it in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Not easy to do. But going back to your sort of start, you're in LA, you're on the Sunset Strip with all of those bands, and it's sort of blowing up, right? It's becoming a global thing. Right. And all these bands are coming to the Strip, and everybody's flyering. And if you in the audience have seen Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years, it goes into this, phenomenon that was sort of happening at the time. And you guys broke attendance records at Gazzari's, the big club on the Strip.
Yeah.
People are paying money to packing the place to see you guys, play. And that must have been pretty cool.
It's super humbling, actually, because I'm a surfer guy from Orange County, and when you start packing places like that, it's humbling. It was never ever like, they're all coming to see me, see us play. It was never an ego thing. I was always humbled by it. But you mentioned Gazzari's, so on the front door of Gazzari's, they had these stars placed above the door with band names on it, and they were the highest sellouts ever. And there was Van Halen, The Doors, and then us. And there's a couple bands, but we had the second largest attendance, I think, at Gazzari's, next to Van Halen, and a technical sellout, I think, was around 300 something, 320. And I want to say they had 700 people in that place, and you couldn't move. It was really uncomfortable. Yeah. So, and it was so bad that there was fire marshal had to shut the shows down a couple of times. But and then the Whiskey A Go-Go is the same thing. It's not a very big club, and same thing. They always, the promoters will always pack it way over what the attendance limits are, and we had the same phenomenon happening there. So it was a lot of fun. Nobody knew back then that was going to be a thing. That people now look back on the 80s, Hollywood scene as this, time in music history.
Like I do. You guys lived it. I'm stuck here, fucking 20 years old. I don't have a clue.
So it's, I know nobody knew that was going to be a thing, but you're walking around Sunset Strip, passing out your flyers. You got your hair all done up, and you're trying to look good, so the girls all come to the show, and the guys want to go because the girls are coming to the show, and that's how you fill the places up. And we were playing. I remember Guns N' Roses would be playing like the Cat Club in Hollywood, and we'd be playing. We were selling out Gazzari's, and I think at one point, they were a big draw in Hollywood as well. But Warrant went through this period of looking for a singer, and they weren't really drawn very well for a while. And then Janie was in a band called Plain Jane, and he left that band to join Warrant after he came to, when we were looking for a singer before we got Steve. A friend of mine hooked me up with Janie, and he came to the studio, and we ran through a set for him. And, to your point, we're not really a glam band musically, so it wasn't really a good fit for him. And then he wound up joining Warrant, and then they got hooked up with Mutt Lange, and they took off really big. But it was just that time. We were all playing together, all playing. Andy sent me a snapshot of a marquee. I totally forgot about it, but we opened up for a band called Silent Stranger, and then it was Nirvana and us. And I didn't know who Nirvana was. They were from Seattle. And then now you look back, we're like, holy crap, we played with Nirvana.
Wow. Yeah.
So
that would have been a show.
You're in it. You don't know it's going to be a thing someday, but you're just in it, living it. And it was a good time. It was fun.
It's just sort of what was happening around you. You didn't really, I guess, from inside of it, it's difficult. Oh, this is going to be a moment in cultural history that they'll talk about for decades. It's not that kind of a thought. It's just, we're here making music, playing shows. We're just doing our thing.
Right. Exactly.
Well, looking back at what it sort of became just globally, the way it changed music, changed fashion, and changed everything. What do you think now, just sort of looking back into it? What's the sort of perspective on that?
Well, it's funny because now with Sirius Radio, I've got the hair metal channel on there, and you start listening to it, and there were bands or music then I didn't really care for, partially because we played the clubs together, and I thought they didn't have a lot of substance. And then now you listen to it now, and you're like, it's not bad, because you're kind of you're listening to it kind of objectively now, because all this time has passed. You're just hearing it for it being a song,
Right. Yeah.
But looking back, I mean, there was a lot of talent. I mean, that was the age of the guitar heroes, Dokken, Lynch. There were so many great players, John Sykes. It was just an amazing time, And now, I mean, music. You got some good bands out there. I mean, there's some bands still trying to keep it alive.
Especially from Sweden and Finland, there's the good old, they nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
But here in Norway, for example, there's basically just me, and then there's all the black metal stuff, and then
it's become a different thing now. I mean, now the metal sort of blew up and became a huge phenomenon, and then shifted to grunge, right? And now metal still lives. It's just it moved to Europe. Right? For some reason, it's just over there,
That's true.
Yeah. So now it's still a thing, just not an American thing as much anymore. Still, the influence is still there. I mean, there are a band, Santa Cruz. Have you heard the band called Santa Cruz?
Mm-hmm.
Guy named Archie Cruz. They basically play sort of 80s glam metal. And he's a young guy, and they just sound like they're from the Sunset Strip. They totally sort of.
They recently played the Whiskey twice, but the first time it was just a huge scandal because
they used flown-in vocals. It became this huge thing where they flew in the vocals. It was terrible. So a valuable lesson: never fly in your vocals. It's just never.
The problem with Santa Cruz now is that Archie's ego fucked it up, because there's just him left of the original band, and it's not really Santa Cruz anymore.
The ego is really the problem. You mentioned ego there, and not having too much of it, I think is important, because that alone can kill everything. Can kill the scene, kill the band. Did you ever have trouble in Holy Soldier?
Kill a band.
Egos?
Absolutely kill a band. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Did ever have so Holy Soldier? There were egos ever clashing when they got
No, we were. This is how we made it work. Was we didn't have that. We were all equal participants. So if I wrote a hook for a song, by the time that thing gets on a record, everybody's got their hand in it. Even David Safiro, he's a really good producer, and he's really good with melody. So he might even interject a piece or a bridge, or, hey, this little turnaround, And so at the end of the day, I was never, even now, I mean, I've got my home studio here, and I've been working on some new stuff, and none of it, I think, is like, I'm going to put a bow on it and it's good to go. I don't want it to be anything until my bros get their hands on it. And that was the collaboration magic with Holy Soldier. So there was no egos. One, we didn't allow it. We kept everybody in check. And two, I think everybody just was really just humble, you know. Nobody thought they were ever that great. And, you know, like for me, I don't think I'm an amazing guitar player. I think I write good melody. I think I've got it.
I have to disagree. You are an amazing player. I appreciate you being humble there, but I've heard you play as a teacher, guitar instructor myself. You're an amazing player.
Well, thank you.
I sit there in my room hours upon hours per day trying to do what you're doing, and I can't fucking do it. So, you know, as I said earlier, you're kind of, as you said that you had all of these legends and, you know, guitar heroes, but to me, you are a guitar hero, and I don't think you realize how big of an influence you have on people.
Well, thank you. That's an honor. I appreciate that. I really do. But, you know, when you really look at the talent that's out there, like, I can't, oh my gosh, I go on YouTube now and I look at these kids that are putting videos up. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right?
Like 15,
like, how
13.
How do you play that good? And you're 12. I mean,
Right.
I mean,
let them sit down and write a song and play it in a band, and they'll struggle. Because
you just made a really good point.
When I was 12 or 13 or maybe younger, I was one of those people like prodigy. I got, you know, pushed into like the acoustic guitar. I didn't want to. I didn't like it. I was super fucking good. I could have probably been, you know, I could have probably had a record deal if I kept it going, but I stopped. So, you know, I didn't have the interest for it, and I was forced, and that's a big part of that. With all these kids on YouTube, it's the parents that, you know, because they utilize the fact that they're young and they learn like that.
It's almost like stage kids and stage moms where they get their kids to be actors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The kids don't always look like they're enjoying it. There is that.
No, but that's a big part for me.
A lot, like almost a trained monkey, and I'm impressed at their skill. But I do look at them and think this kid is not having any fun. Now some do clearly, but there are a lot that look like they're being forced to perform on cue, you know, for the parents. But as you say, also, Matt, there's a difference between being a technical player and then, you know, writing a good song. Those are so different, really different skills.
I can sit and listen to whoever's the most technical, blah, 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 you know, and I just sit there like, okay, yeah, that's cool. But if I sit and listen to Wasp or Twisted Sister or Holy Soldier, and then I pick up my guitar and I play along, you know, I play until I'm fucking drenched in sweat and, you know, tired, because there's the element of feeling the music instead of just being technically proficient.
I remember hearing those Holy Soldier songs, and the first time I heard it, I thought, wow, this is just the emotional connection to the music is so strong that it's not like other music from the era that started to feel predictable and formulaic, and it didn't feel that way on the first record at all. You know? Me
and my band, actually, we were testing a new singer a few weeks ago, and I picked a Holy Soldier song, and it was The Pain Inside of Me, and it was that one, just to test the singer. And, you know, we played it, and the energy just went through the roof because of the music was so good. I was so sweaty, I could barely play. You know, my hands were sliding everywhere.
That was a killer song.
Yeah, it's fucking badass. I'm still trying to learn the goddamn solo.
Well, I'll have to teach it to you at some point.
Yeah, Michael said he was gonna record a video, but I haven't heard back from him, so I guess I'll just
so that's the key, and you just brought up a really good point. And I think that's where I've always been comfortable with my ability and my playing, is that I feel like I feel the music when I write it, and I'm a big fan of melody. And when I write, it comes from the heart. So when it comes out, and it's really good to hear from you that you feel it when you listen to it, because that's the intention. You can be very technically great and play every amazing arpeggio. And I've seen a lot of guys like that, and they cannot write a song to save their life because they can't get past the technical piece. Like they think they have to overplay everything, or they're getting
song.
they're getting the theory all in there. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to go to a flat fifth, and it's like, no, just create music, and that's how I do it. And like the See No Evil, like, so that was a riff I had in another song, and
I played
it was
that
just
wrong. I played that so wrong. God damn it.
so it's just a catchy riff, and so by the
I
time
love
we worked it all up, you know, we worked the bridge, and then the verse, and it, by the time we all got our hands in it, it was what it was. But when I wrote that part, it was, I felt it, you know, and it just seemed, I don't write music based on vocal melody because I'm not a singer, and I'm really terrible at vocal melody. I'm awful with it. It winds up being really cheesy. And what's funny is because I can hear guitar melody in my head, I can't transpose that to vocal melody. And so I always rely on the singer for that. But my hopes that when I put it out and we all get together and make it a song, that's what comes across, is that you feel it. Like you feel that emotion that I felt when, you know, I played it or wrote the part. And it's super flattering to hear that's how it comes across, because that's the intention. But I don't think everybody writes that way. And I think that's the key. And and there's no magic sauce. There's you know, there's no magic formula. And like you made a great point about the formulated songs of the 80s. I mean, you know, it was just, some of it was really cheesy. And there's a band called Danger Danger. Okay. And they had some kind of, you know, real bubblegum cheeseball songs. But dude, Andy Timmons is one of my
amazing.
I can tell you right now, he's probably one of the best guitar players on the planet. I mean, he's so fantastic, and his level of ease that he plays with and the notes he chooses, I can't even begin to understand how his brain works. But and he transformed from that to now he writes these amazing, you know, instrumental songs that inspire me, you know, and I can tell it's coming from his heart, and that's why it works.
Speaking of which, are you going to be putting out some instrumental music or some stuff?
I'm working on a project right now. I'm currently doing some writing and recording here in my studio on working up some songs to get with the other guys I'm working with. So can I tell you something about being in a band that's one of the hardest things?
Sure.
Picking a name of a band.
Dude, I spent so many hours days even trying to figure out my band name.
Years.
They're
either all taken, right? Or it's something similar is already there every time you this is it. No, it's taken. It's very close to this one. Yeah, it's tough.
I'm very proud of mine. I'm gonna show it to you here. But I sat up one night and then it just fucking hit me.
Electric Steel.
Go. That works.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's 80s cheese all the way, but that's the way I fucking love it.
Look at Steel Panther. I mean, they started out as a, you know, comedy act, and now they do big tours and put out music.
And Satchel has a signature guitar. Speaking of amazing players, that guy can play too. That guy's really an amazing player.
You know, he was
originally, but they're having a lot of fun with it.
They are. He was in Judas Priest's singers band called Fight. Do you remember the band Fight? It was Rob Halford's band for a while. When he left, there was a band called Fight. It was Rob Halford from Priest, and the guitar player was Satchel.
Yeah. I've heard that, dude. Oh, that's a good. I love that.
So he was already cranking it out. What were you going to say right before that, Jamie?
Go ahead.
Wait.
Oh yeah. He wanted to ask you about this guitar. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So we were talking a bit earlier before you came, Todd, and he told me something interesting that I didn't know. You know West Tone, right? You know my West Tone Dimension.
Yeah.
So apparently they're gonna start up the brand again.
Oh, well, cool.
Yeah, so maybe Jamie, you want to tell him a little bit about that first, and then I can shoot in something after.
Yeah, so Tim Jones reached out to me, and they're starting up the West Tone line. It's not going to be St. Louis music. It's they're using the brand, and they're going to be custom shop America built guitars, high quality, high end guitars.
Wow.
So they're currently working on a signature one for me that I will endorse, and then they're working on, I think, one for Rex Carroll for White Cross, and then they're going to have like a more affordable model, and then I think they're starting out with the 2 signature guitars, and they're hoping to get some out for the NAMM show next year, but if not, it'll be the following year. But
wow, awesome.
Yeah, so I'm working with them right now. It sounds like I wish them the best. I hope it works out, because you know, handmade, custom shop quality guitars are really a great thing.
Yes, definitely. You know,
So,
the more custom shop guitars in the world, I think the better. Really,
I agree. You know, the dinosaurs didn't have guitars, and look what happened to them.
Right. See, it's the end of civilization if you don't have good guitars, people, and good gear.
Right.
Well,
so yeah, I'm working on a project. It's not Holy Soldier. It's not a Christian rock band. It's something different. I've got a couple people that are kind of reputable that have done some cool stuff, and we'll announce it once we get it all buttoned up.
Cool. Well, we definitely look forward to that. Just in the few minutes we have left, because this is Rack Talk, I wanted to ask you, when you were sort of touring around and stuff, did you always use amps or rack gear? What was your thing?
So I had an old 100-watt Marshall, and I used a Mesa Boogie Mark III in my rack. So I had a big flight case with my 2 amps in it, and then I was running like a Furman PQ3, and I forgot what delay I had because it was so long ago. So I had a compressor, a noise gate, a delay, and then the Furman and the Boogie. And that was my main rig. And I'd go between the Boogie and the Marshall. And that was it. I didn't have like this giant, I mean, it looked good because you had the 4 or 5 racks, and then you had the light bar, you know, coming down. So it looked kind of impressive. But yeah, I like, and I wasn't a big pedal guy. I didn't run a lot of pedals, and I still don't. You know, like Zach Wild, he's got the same 4 or 5 pedals he used in high school, you know.
Right.
And you know, they say your sound is all here in your hand.
Yeah, tones in the fingers. Yeah,
it is. And Zach, you know, he sounds like Zach no matter what he plays through. So
yeah.
But that was my rack.
Wow.
I had one pedal. It was a Boss DS1, and I traded it for this Ibanez RG.
It's a good trade. It's a good trade.
Stand pedals.
Yeah, I'm not a big pedal guy.
So
when Holy Soldier did the reunion stuff in 2005, I'd gotten rid of a lot of my stage gear. You know, I had 4 full stacks, and you know, my flight case, and you know, being out of music for many years, you know, I when I walked away from Holy Soldier, I literally didn't play my guitar for like 10 years. Like I walked away. Wow. It was, and then
I could never do that. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, it was a really weird time for me. And then, yeah, I circled back, and like, I mean, I play every day. I'm writing. I'm like super immersed in my music again, which it feels really good. But, you know, I got rid of a lot of that gear. And so when we decided to do the reunion stuff, I started going online and buying I bought some pedals. I bought a Line 6 delay pedal, and you know, I bought a half stack at JCM 900 I have over there, and that was it. And then after we did those shows, I just, you know, I've got my studio here with my Fender Twin, my Spark amp, which is a lot of fun, and the Spider 240. Marshall's too loud to play in here, but
right.
And yeah, so you know, with modeling now, it's, you know, for small spaces, you can't really beat it.
It's very true. We are almost out of time for today, but hopefully Jamie will join us again. We didn't really get to go too much into sort of the history and the progress from then to now, but thank you very much for joining us. And I hope we can do this very soon. Hopefully again.
Happy to.
Thank you very much. We will see you next time on Rack Talk.